All right, so Romero taking the high road. What about the referee himself, Fernando Hernandez? Here's what he had to say to the fans and the public in general. I offer an apology, as well as to Lucas Romero, for my reaction yesterday. I would never attack him as well as any other player. Hernandez continued, aware of this, I will abide by the resolution that the disciplinary committee takes. All right, Herc, lots of talk about this, not just in Mexico, but worldwide. So what should happen to the referee here? What kind of consequences should he face for his actions?
Let me just start off by saying how unfortunate this is, because if you think about it, the last 13 months that Liga MX has had news on a world stage, on an international stage, it's been the fan violence in Querétaro versus Atlas, those images that transmitted around the world, and now this. A referee striking a player. And I ask myself, because I know that referees are in this impossible position. They are abused emotionally, verbally, physically, at all levels of the sport in many countries, whether it's amateur, collegiate, whether it's professional. They're abused, and there are people, they are humans as well. But in this specific case, I go back and I think of this referee, Fernando Hernandez, and where have I seen that name before? Well, actually, in a Copa MX game, it was actually Fernandez and Pablo Aguilar, after the game ended, tosses him, and there's a headbutt, a little clash, if you will. And the referees commission, after Pablo Aguilar was given 10 games, was so distraught and so upset. How can it only be 10 games? We need to set an example that they themselves went on strike the following week. There was no football played week 10 of Liga MX back in 2017. 10 games is what Pablo Aguilar got. This is an official. I know that it was somewhat provoked. It was very much a soccer action, right? It was somebody provokes, and it was the second one we see. And
it wasn't
that's
a refereeing action.
Right. And that's the one that we're going to judge.
Yes.
This has to be and made an example for both. Lucas Romero, the player as well, he should get some extensive time, but Fernando Hernandez, we're not going to see him again this season. We may not see him again next season. Ramos Rizzo, our colleague who does officiating for ESPN, has said that his international career will most likely be over. He could be a Gold Cup and World Cup referee in the future. That's going to end. I'm not saying the man should never referee again. But you could see the look in his eye. He went after a player. I don't know how we can just act like it's nothing and move on from it, because I know that's what León wants to do, because their player, Lucas Romero, if not, if we just move on, he also won't be sanctioned, won't be punished. So I understand that's what they want to do, but it's not what we should do. I think we're going to see some extensive time, and I think it's going to be probably a year.
Yeah. So if we go back to that 2017 incident that you mentioned, there was another incident as well, kind of that week or the week before with Rivero, a player with Toluca. And those two incidents sparked the referee strike that you talk about. Now, in that instance, it was 10 games for Aguilar. Then the referees wanted more. They got a year. Eventually, CAS, the Center for Arbitration in Sport, came back and moved it to the original punishment, which was 10. But the Referees Association has already come out and said violence of this type is worth a year. So I don't know if the referees have anything to fall back on here, Herc, if they want anything less than a year. This is a really bad look, and I appreciate the point that you made. We talk a lot about Liga MX as an international property, right? And we compare it a lot to MLS, and a lot of times we wonder, is the talent difference that much? How come MLS players go for such big bucks abroad? And every time we hear about Liga MX abroad, it's either a Mexican or an American telling us, oh, in Europe, they don't pay any attention to this league. And the few times that this league grabs headlines, it's this, to your point about Querétaro, it's that. It's something else that happens in this game, one of the managers getting his shirt ripped off. That's what goes viral. That's what the world knows about Mexican soccer. They don't know the quality of Liga MX. They really only know its quirks. And that, to me, is sad. On the act of players, Herc, swarming the official. As a player, surely that has to stop.
Absolutely. And I start off the conversation with acknowledging how difficult the task of being a referee is, how thankless it is. There needs to be some change. Trust me, you coach at a youth level. My kids are now getting into youth soccer. We've heard the horror stories. I've been a player. I can tell you what I've seen on the field, the treatment that these referees have to endure. It is nothing pleasant, and I feel for them. I really do. He let his emotions get the best of him, in this case. But you're absolutely right. The mass confrontations, the constant attacks from players and and provocations that happen, it was just bound to boil over. It's just ironic that it happened to Hernandez.
Yeah, and look, that happens everywhere in the world, Herc, those things, but
Yes.
Liga MX clearly has an image issue to the rest of the world, so they need to focus on this and somehow put a stop to it, because at the end of the day, it's overshadowing what was a really, really good game.
Well, thank you very much for watching ESPN on YouTube. For more sports highlights and analysis, be sure to download the ESPN app. And for live streaming, premium content, and let's not forget as well, ESPN FC 7 days a week. Subscribe to ESPN Plus.